practicing, as you said, the stranger to familiar, as we're practicing every day, we practicing in Zoom with everybody, and beside the practicing schedule, when we doing all our activities, or we doing everything in our daily activities, how can our practice is becomes so weak. However, in my mind, I still have the reminder that we need to go back to the practice. However, the interruptions in practice is always there when we doing our job in our daily living. When we reflect back to our practice, I feel like our practice is always have these interruptions, and it's not going continuously. And could you please help me, encourage me in my practice? I always said that our practice is always value the practice. When we can value the practice, we rooted our practice on the circle of birth and death, and this going automatically. We don't trying to do this practice. However, because of the belief in a Buddha nature, rooted ourselves in circle of birth and death, and we doing the practice. It's just like a person who are hungry, they find foods. When they're thirsty, they want to drink water. So just like us, we hungry of the true Dharma. We thirst of the true Dharma. That's why we doing the practice. So in order to be familiar with the practice, we need to focus on the practice, because we are so familiar with this circle of birth and death, the suffering, and we don't have the good practice yet. We are not familiar with our practice yet. That's why we need to train ourselves to practice at any times, anywhere. The Buddha and the patriarchs always remind us to train ourselves like that. However, even though we knew that is the way to go or walk toward our goal, however, because of the weak mindset, we won't be able to practice continuously and diligently. When we realize it is necessary, it is the need for a person who hungry to eat, the person who are thirsty to drink. If we have that feeling that the necessary, without the food or the water, we will die, then we always want to search for food and water. Now we want to liberate our mind from this suffering life, but we still not believe in our practice. We're not familiar with our practice yet. That's why we need to train ourselves to practice. However, just like people living in this life, they always run after the properties, the money, or anything else instead of going back to the practice and focus on the practice. That's why they cannot get familiar with the practice yet. Our mind, our doubt is a way to go back to the observation wisdom. However, it's not there yet. The Buddha and the patriarch try to explain about this wisdom, observation wisdom. They use the means to lead us to the practice in order to get the liberation from this mind. However, we need to practice. So based on the schedule of the practice, based on the means of the Buddha and the patriarch have done for us, we need to follow their examples and realize the significance of the practice. And when we train ourselves to practice, we realize that need of the practice in order to liberate ourselves from this suffering life. When we do the practice diligently, we realize the need to do the practice. Everything still the same. It's just like before you did the practice, you eat 3 bowls of rice. After you realize your need of practice, you still eat 3 bowls of rice. It's the same like before. Before, it's just because you have that attachment. After you practice, you gradually switch up all these attachments. These are just the explanations. You need to do the practice, and the more you practice, the more you understand the words from the Buddha and the patriarch taught us. And that is the way that you get enlightenment. So the practice and the learning going simultaneously, and that will help us and aid us to go toward the ultimate goal. We don't just do the practice for fun, but we do the practice seriously with a respect of our practice. So all the times, all the time that we have, we focus on the practice, and that is for a true practitioner who really pay attention to the practice and believe in their own Buddha nature. Is that understandable? Yes, thank you for your words.